August 15, 1943, 22:47 hours, Kuban Peninsula, Soviet Union. Lieutenant Nadezhda Popova pulled her canvas flying helmet tight against the freezing wind as her Polikarpov Po-2 biplane lifted off from the makeshift airstrip for the 18th time that night. Her navigator, Katya Pashkova, hunched over her map in the rear cockpit, trying to shield the flickering compass from the slipstream. 18 missions in 12 hours. The German ammunition depot at Krimskaya had been their target all night. Every 30 minutes, Popova and Pashkova had returned to base, loaded 2 more 50-kilogram bombs under their fragile biplane, and taken off again into the darkness. Their orders were simple: keep hitting the target until nothing remained. The Germans had tried everything to stop them. Searchlights swept the sky like angry fingers. Anti-aircraft guns barked orange flames into the night. Messerschmitt fighters prowled overhead, hunting for the sound of their approaching engine. But Popova had learned the trick that made the Night Witches legendary. 3 kilometers from the target, she cut her engine and glided in silently, invisible except for the soft whisper of wind through her biplane's struts. The Germans called it the sound of a witch's broomstick. As she approached Krimskaya for the 18th time, Popova could see the ammunition depot still burning from their previous 17 attacks. Massive explosions sent pillars of flame hundreds of feet into the air. Secondary detonations rattled her flimsy aircraft like thunder. The 22-year-old pilot from Donetsk had volunteered for this war to avenge her brother, killed during the German invasion. Tonight she would drop her final 2 bombs and make history as the Night Witch who refused to give up. What happened in the next 6 minutes would prove why the 588th Night Bomber Regiment had become the most feared harassment unit on the Eastern Front, and why German soldiers had learned to dread the sound of canvas wings cutting through the Russian night. Nadezhda Popova was born in 1921 in the Ukrainian mining town of Shabanka. Her father worked the coal mines, her mother raised 5 children, and young Nadezhda dreamed of flying from the moment she saw her first airplane at age 15. The Soviet Union in the 1930s encouraged women to pursue aviation through local flying clubs. Thousands of young women learned to pilot everything from gliders to transport aircraft. Popova earned her pilot's license at 17, logging hundreds of hours in Polikarpov Po-2 trainers, the same fabric and wood biplanes she would later use to terrorize the Wehrmacht. When Germany invaded the Soviet Union in June 1941, Popova was working as a flying instructor. Her younger brother Leonid enlisted immediately and was killed defending Kiev 3 months later. Her family home in Shabanka was occupied by German forces and converted into a Gestapo headquarters. Like thousands of Soviet women, Popova wrote letters to the government begging for the chance to fight. The Soviet Air Force initially rejected all female applicants. Combat aviation was considered too dangerous, too technical, too important to entrust to women. Then, Major Marina Raskova changed everything. Raskova was the Soviet Union's most famous female aviator, a record-holding pilot with personal connections to Stalin himself. In October 1941, with the Red Air Force decimated by Luftwaffe attacks, Raskova convinced Stalin to authorize 3 all-female aviation regiments. The 586th Fighter Regiment would fly modern Yakovlev fighters. The 587th Bomber Regiment would operate twin-engine Petlyakov dive bombers, and the 588th Night Bomber Regiment would fly obsolete Po-2 biplanes on harassment missions behind enemy lines. Popova was assigned to the 588th, officially because her experience was limited to training aircraft, unofficially because the military brass considered night harassment the least important mission. If women were going to fly combat sorties, they reasoned, let them fly the least capable aircraft against the least critical targets. They underestimated what desperate women could accomplish with obsolete airplanes. The 588th trained at Engels Flight School near Stalingrad through the brutal winter of 1941-42. The women received hand-me-down men's uniforms that hung like sacks on their smaller frames. Their boots were size 42, men's medium, forcing most pilots to stuff rags into the toes. They had no parachutes, no radios, no defensive armament. Their aircraft were museum pieces. The Polikarpov Po-2 had first flown in 1928 as a primary trainer and crop duster. It was built from wood and canvas, had a maximum speed of 94 meters when loaded with bombs, and carried exactly two 50-kilogram bombs strapped under its lower wings. German fighters had stall speeds higher than the Po-2's maximum velocity. A Messerschmitt Bf-109 literally could not fly slowly enough to engage a Night Witch in aerial combat without falling out of the sky. But that same limitation made the Po-2 invisible to German radar, impossible to intercept, and capable of precision attacks that faster aircraft could never achieve. The Night Witches learned to turn their weakness into their greatest strength. In June 1942, the 588th deployed to the Caucasus Front. Their mission: fly harassment raids against German supply lines, ammunition depots, and troop concentrations, disrupt enemy sleep patterns, destroy morale, keep the Wehrmacht constantly looking over its shoulder. Popova flew her first combat mission on June 12, 1942, targeting German river crossings near the Donets. She and navigator Sofia Vozianik took off at 2300 hours, flew 40 kilometers behind enemy lines, and dropped their two bombs on a pontoon bridge packed with German armor. The mission lasted 47 minutes. They returned to base, refueled, loaded two more bombs, and took off again. By dawn, Popova had flown 6 sorties, hitting the same bridge complex repeatedly until German engineers abandoned their efforts to repair it. That became the Night Witch's signature tactic: multiple attacks on the same target, night after night, until the Germans abandoned whatever they were trying to accomplish. The psychological warfare was devastating. German soldiers couldn't sleep because any night might bring the whisper of approaching biplanes. Wehrmacht officers reported that their troops were showing signs of severe battle fatigue after weeks of interrupted sleep. Any concentration of troops, vehicles, or supplies became a target. The Russians seemed to appear from nowhere, drop their bombs with pinpoint accuracy, then vanish into darkness before anti-aircraft gunners could react. The Night Witches had perfected a 3-plane attack formation that maximized their effectiveness. 2 aircraft would approach from different angles, drawing German searchlights and anti-aircraft fire. While the defenders focused on these decoys, the 3rd plane would glide silently to the target from an unexpected direction. After the attack, all 3 planes would escape using different routes, making it impossible for German fighters to intercept them. The canvas and wood construction that made their planes seem so fragile actually provided unexpected advantages. Bullets often passed clean through the fabric without causing critical damage. Radio waves from German radar installations couldn't detect the wooden airframes. Metal aircraft would have shown up like beacons on enemy detection equipment, but the Night Witches flew beneath the technological threshold of modern warfare. Winter operations presented unique challenges. Temperatures dropped to -40°C during the Battle of Stalingrad. The open cockpits provided no protection from the brutal cold. Metal parts of the aircraft became so cold that touching them with bare skin would rip the flesh away. The women stuffed newspapers inside their oversized uniforms and wrapped their hands with cloth torn from bed sheets. Navigation required skills that modern pilots could barely comprehend. With no radio beacons, radar, or electronic instruments, Night Witch navigators used stars, landmarks, and dead reckoning to find targets in total darkness. They memorized the positions of every river, railway, and major road in their operational area. A single navigation error could mean flying into German-held territory with no way home. The Germans nicknamed them Nachthexen, Night Witches, after the eerie sound of wind through their rigging. Any Luftwaffe pilot who shot down a Night Witch received an automatic Iron Cross. German soldiers began leaving small offerings outside their bunkers, hoping to appease what they believed were supernatural forces stalking them through the darkness. By August 1943, Popova was a veteran pilot with over 400 combat missions. She had been shot down twice, surviving crashes in the Caucasus and near Stalingrad. Her planes routinely returned with dozens of bullet holes, but somehow she and her navigators always walked away. The night of August 15, 1943, would test that luck to its absolute limit. The German ammunition depot at Krimskaya contained enough artillery shells to supply an entire panzer division. Soviet intelligence reported massive stockpiles of 88 EMIOTers anti-aircraft rounds, tank ammunition, and small arms cartridges, everything the Wehrmacht needed to hold their defensive positions along the Kuban River. The 588th received orders to destroy it completely, not damage it, not harass the guards, eliminate it as a functional facility. Popova volunteered to lead the attack with her navigator, Katya Pashkova. The mission would require multiple sorties to carry enough explosives to penetrate the depot's concrete bunkers. Standard night harassment involved 3-4 attacks per crew. This mission called for something unprecedented. At 1847 hours, Popova and Pashkova took off for their first attack. The depot was 60 kilometers behind German lines, defended by searchlight batteries and flak guns. Intelligence reported at least 2 Messerschmitt night fighters operating in the area. The first attack went perfectly. Popova cut her engine 3 kilometers out and glided silently toward the target. Her bombs hit a fuel storage tank, creating a massive fireball that illuminated the entire complex. She restarted her engine and climbed away before the Germans could react. Back at base, she refueled and rearmed in 12 minutes. Mission 2 launched at 20:30 hours. This time, the Germans were ready. Searchlights swept the sky methodically. Anti-aircraft guns fired blind barrages into the darkness. But Popova had perfected the art of three-dimensional chess with obsolete aircraft. She approached from the southwest, where German gunners least expected her, dropped her bombs on an ammunition bunker, and escaped while tracers filled the air where she'd been seconds before. Mission 3, Mission 4, Mission 5. By midnight, Krimskaya looked like a vision of hell. Secondary explosions sent shockwaves across the Kuban Peninsula. Artillery shells cooked off in chains of orange fire. German radio traffic became increasingly frantic as officers tried to coordinate firefighting efforts with air defense. But Popova wasn't finished. Mission 6 hit the motor pool. Mission 7 targeted the communications bunker. Mission 8 cratered the access road, trapping fire trucks inside the burning complex. Each attack required 30-40 minutes of flight time, followed by rapid turnaround at their forward base. Popova and Pashkova survived on adrenaline, benzodrine tablets, and the knowledge that their brother Leonid was watching from wherever dead heroes go. By 0200 hours, they had completed 12 missions. Most Night Witch crews called it a successful evening after 3 or 4 attacks. Popova requested permission to continue. Mission 13 targeted the ammunition depot's main bunker. The concrete structure had survived 5 direct hits, but cracks were beginning to show. Popova placed her bombs with surgical precision, aiming for the damaged sections. The explosion lit up half the peninsula. The bunker's reinforced roof collapsed into a crater 30 meters across. Burning artillery shells shot into the air like fireworks, some landing as far as 2 kilometers away. Mission 14, Mission 15, Mission 16. German night fighters finally found her on the 17th attack. A Messerschmitt Bf-110 intercepted her approach, forcing Popova into a desperate dive toward the treetops. The German pilot fired bursts of 20mm cannon shells that tore chunks from her upper wing and shattered her windscreen. Pashkova was wounded by flying glass, but refused to abandon the mission. "Drop the bombs, Nadia," she whispered through the intercom. "We've come too far to quit now." Popova pulled out of her dive at 50 meters altitude, climbed back toward the target, and released her bombs into the center of the burning complex. The Messerschmitt pilot, unable to follow her tight turns at such low altitude, broke off the attack. At 0634 hours, Lieutenant Nadezhda Popova landed her Polikarpov Po-2 for the 18th time in 12 hours. Her aircraft was riddled with bullet holes, her navigator required medical attention, and the German ammunition depot at Krimskaya had ceased to exist. Ground crews counted 47 bullet holes in her biplane. 3 had passed within centimeters of her head. 1 had punctured her map exactly where Krimskaya was marked, as if fate was making a point about precision bombing. The attack had destroyed over 200 tons of German ammunition, eliminated a key supply hub, and forced the Wehrmacht to relocate 2 entire artillery batteries. But more importantly, it proved what one determined woman could accomplish with obsolete equipment and unlimited courage. Popova flew 852 combat missions during the war, becoming one of the most decorated pilots in Soviet history. She survived crashes, shoot-downs, and countless close calls with death. In 1945, she received the Hero of the Soviet Union Medal from Marshal Rokossovsky himself. The Night Witches flew over 30,000 missions, dropped 23,000 tons of bombs, and lost only 32 pilots from their ranks. They destroyed railways, bridges, ammunition depots, and German morale across the Eastern Front. After the war, Nadezhda Popova became a flight instructor, married a fighter pilot, and raised a son who became a general in the Belarusian Air Force. She died in 2013 at age 91, one of the last surviving Night Witches. But on the night of August 15, 1943, she was a 22-year-old Avenger flying her 18th mission against the same target, proving that sometimes the most obsolete aircraft in the hands of the most determined pilot can accomplish the impossible. The Germans learned that night why they feared the whisper of canvas wings in the darkness.